Hello, Void, and all who inhabit it. It's me, another Sims player with too much time on their hands. For the record, a prerequisite for playing The Sims is to have too much time on your hands, so I'm not that much of an oddity. I'm recording this on February 4th, the 20th anniversary of our beloved franchise. Over the years, The Sims has functioned as a sandbox safe haven to dump hours of gameplay, often over a very short period of time, for millions of us. We've made entire legacies, neighborhoods, new worlds, and lives. I'm going to link a pretty nice anniversary look-back article for more information on how the Sims franchise managed to capture our hearts and hard drives so quickly. But as we celebrate 20 years of The Sims, I wanted to reflect on the series in a different way. The game structure is entirely different now than its beginnings, and that's not necessarily a good thing. One of my good friends has pointed out to me that they think EA is morphing the franchise to groom players, especially younger players, to grow accustomed to microtransaction-based gameplay. With the recent theories that the 5th installment will be online-based, I think this prediction is becoming rapidly true, and that the microtransactions will span beyond game and stuff packs. Let's go back to the beginning of the shift. Will Wright, first of his name, head of House Sim, left Maxis, the developer through which The Sims was created, in 2009. His departure was fueled by poor reception of Spore, another game he created. As a result, Maxis, already publishing games through EA, was consolidated into an official division of EA. Maxis would continue building onto franchise started by its founder. In 2013, EA launched SimCity, the latest version in the city-building franchise also started by Wright. SimCity was considered a reboot of the series, but was met with heavy criticism. Unlike the preceding games, the 2013 version was a massively multiplayer online game, or an MMO. Adding an online aspect isn't an inherently bad thing to add to a game, it's how functions like the Sim Gallery work. But where SimCity went wrong was in tying save data to the online function. Players had to have a network connection in order to play or save the game. EA was accused of attempting to embed a DRM in the game. A DRM, or digital rights management, is a means of fighting piracy by controlling how players can use media. The way Steam runs is a good example of this. You can download copies of your game onto any computer, but games can only be accessed through your account, and your Steam account can't be logged into two computers at the same time, as opposed to hard copy games where you could let someone borrow the disc to install the game or even burn a copy. Any of this sound familiar? Anyway, SimCity got flack for this because network outages prevented players from being able to actually play. Interestingly enough, Will Wright was interviewed about the brouhaha and said the following, quote, "That was basically inexcusable that you charge somebody $60 for a game and they can't play it. I can understand the outrage. If I was a consumer buying the game and that happened to me, I'd feel the same." End quote. At this point, Wright was 5 years removed from Maxis. He was working with Stupid Fun Club, an entertainment think tank that would create content for multiple media outlets, including games. At its launch, EA was a principal shareholder, but beyond this connection, Wright was removed from EA, including in the development of his old projects. So let's take a minute to solidify our timeline. The Sims 3 was released in 2009, the same year that Wright left Maxis. And in 2013, SimCity was released with much criticism. Maxis at that time was still producing content for The Sims 3. In fact, 2 expansion packs were released for The Sims 3 in 2013. The Sims 4 was released a year later in 2014, and it was developed to be accessed through EA's own digital distribution platform Origin, which had some bugs fixed after the release of SimCity. By the time The Sims 4 was released, EA also had the foresight to not force players to be online in order to play. Jump forward to today, where right before the 20th anniversary, it was revealed that The Sims 5 is indeed in development, and implied by EA executive Andrew Wilson that it will contain social interaction elements from The Sims Online. The Sims Online, published in 2002 with an attempted rebrand in 2007 that led to its shutdown in 2008, was an MMO version of The Sims that required a $10 monthly subscription fee. To be honest, it sounds like Habbo Hotel, but you have to pay for it. Anyway, social interaction elements is vague enough to mean anything, but many are drawing a conclusion that Wilson was suggesting that The Sims 5 will also be an MMO. I lay all of this out because when looking at how a life simulation game went from sandbox structure to a potential MMO, it's important to look at the shifts behind the screen as well as the changes in gameplay, which, in terms of those, there have been a ton. I'm not the first to complain that The Sims 4 has made the game way too easy. Even the Tiny Living stuff pack, which I have to agree is one of the best that's been released for The Sims 4, holds its strength in perpetuating this. The additional lot traits and tiny home perks are a step in the direction of dynamic gameplay that we've been asking for, but those steps falter when you realize that all the traits are positive. Anyway, there's tons of reviews on that stuff pack. I recommend Plumbella's, but there's a plethora to choose from. My point is this. On the game end, we've seen a decline in the amount of difficulty added in-game. Game and stuff packs are mostly just Maxis Match CC collections. The story progression is non-existent, even with free will on. You can't even get robbed anymore. And while I understand arguments of making the game more accessible to players who enjoy a more dollhouse-focused type of gameplay, why isn't there an option to have more dynamic gameplay? In The Sims 2 and 3, you can toggle free will on and off. And The Sims 3 even had a story progression option that was chaotic, but at least it was there. The changes start to make sense when we peel back the curtain and see that the creator left before the newest game was developed. Left in the same year that the previous installment was released. Okay, so we don't need the creator there to continue. Former VP and general manager of Maxis, Lucy Bradshaw, assured fans of this in a 2009 interview. When Stupid Fun Club's partnership with EA was announced, she was interviewed by IGN and during it said, quote, Will's vision and the ultimate execution of those games, both Sims and Spore, came from really strong creative collaboration with people here at Maxis and within the Play label. I'm excited to see the direction that our own creative talent who have collaborated with Will in the past and have come from different game design disciplines and other companies take not only Spore as a property and Sims as a property, but also some of our own IP development, end quote. I can't completely doubt the intentions of the development team, especially with the recent strides made to include the Sims community in different decision-making steps. But honestly, you know what this makes me think of? Lucasfilm. And how after it was purchased by Disney, fans were reassured again and again that everything would be fine. And now look at us. Look at the material. It also makes me think of Steven Hillenburg and SpongeBob and how Nickelodeon didn't even wait until his body was cold before going against what he wanted. Yes, you can expand on the originator's vision even without them being present, but who is in the room for that expansion? What are the goals and visions that are lost or gained when that power switches hands, and for what reason? I want to go back to the interview with Wright I quoted earlier. In the same interview about SimCity, he said he could have predicted and that he kind of did predict there would be backlash with the DRM stuff. So you have a creator who is conscious of the desires of his audience and a publisher that acts regardless of them. Then a year later, another game launched in a similar format, and potentially now the 5th installment to a 20-year franchise will require even more online interaction. My concern with this rapid movement towards an MMO ties back to the weakened sim content we've been seeing with this recent installment. Getting patches is nice and all, though if the game isn't finished, why are you putting it out? But how do we go from 18 expansion and stuff packs in The Sims 2, 20 expansion and stuff packs in The Sims 3, to 15 stuff packs in The Sims 4 alone? Add in expansion and game packs to bring the total of additional content packs to 30. And there are still no bunk beds. You take a game that has increased its additional content by 50% and slap it online and think of how many other things you can charge players for. Inventory space, neighborhood lots, access to features like the color wheel or story progression. Suddenly the important parts of the game are chopped up and sold to players in pieces. The Sims is hurtling towards app game territory with limited features and paywalls. MMO games provide the luxury of an open world, but by restricting players to access the game online, developers can restrict several aspects of gameplay. And with the way The Sims 4 has failed to deliver dynamic gameplay, even with the introduction of expansion game and stuff packs, it's becoming more apparent that Maxis and EA are pushing The Sims in the direction of a pay-to-play game. I'll end with this. A major draw for many companies to market towards Generation Z is due to their purchase influence. Although Gen Z may not be shelling out the money, they have an immense influence on where household funds get distributed due to their access to content. It may be enticing to market a game towards younger players through less spontaneous gameplay because at the end of the day, they're the ones who are going to convince someone to buy 5011 game packs. Or at least that's the argument. If you made it to the end, I want to thank you for making it to the end. This is technically the second episode I've recorded, but it's the first I'm sharing with y'all. I appreciate you out there for listening to me, another voice in the void. Stay safe out there. I'll catch you in the next echo chamber.